Brewers, Bucks, you name it. I grew up in Racine, just about 30 miles south here of Milwaukee. Uh, you know, studied accounting in college, but my real passion was to play professional baseball. That's kind of my big goal in life, and I'm one to chase dreams. And I went to a junior college in Iowa to play, and was doing well until I slid into second base and hurt my ankle. And
Wow.
that kind of slowed me down. So I said I better get serious with my accounting, and I went to the University of Wisconsin at Eau Claire, studied accounting, but my ankle healed up. I played varsity ball, played a little semi-pro baseball, but still wasn't good enough to make the Brewers. So decided to try banking instead, and that's kind of where I've been the last 40 plus years.
So that's interesting, that your goal was professional baseball. When you and I were on the show a week or so ago, we talked about the fact that we both have philosophy backgrounds, philosophy degrees. In fact. So who would have thought that we would end up doing banking, and now here you are, a person who's on track for professional baseball, and yet now you're a banker.
Well, I'll have to say that in baseball, there's lots of statistics, which kind of fed my accounting, finance, and fascination with numbers. So, and by the way, for a lot of kids, how do you calculate a batting average, earned run average? Definitely is a great way to practice your math. So, I would really encourage that.
Okay, so there are some numbers that are involved with that. That actually makes a little more of a segue. So, okay, sure, I love it. I love it. Um, I know that we've talked a few times. You mentioned that your dad was a butcher. I just find that fascinating because I see how you've gone to Jake's and picked up some sandwiches for us from time to time, and the way that you enjoy food. Talk about that a little bit, Jack.
I'm a carnivore. I will admit it. Hard to grow up in a family of butchers. I actually started with my grandfather who came over from Germany, started a butcher shop, ex-meat market in Racine.
Oh,
Did a lot of custom cuts and specialty meat. I would go to the meat market and I'd dust the cans in the market. And my compensation was I'd get a hot dog or a wiener that they give me. And I think I got a quarter, either a quarter or a quarter an hour. It probably was just a quarter, but that was a lot of money back then.
yeah, I'm sure.
But my father, my uncle, my great uncle all practiced meat cutting. And then when my grandfather was getting ill, late 60s, and, things changed, all the regulations. They made a decision to close the meat market. And
Okay,
they didn't have the heart to tell my grandfather because they knew it would be really hard. But my dad went back to college. Uh, he had his 4-year degree in finance, but World War II broke out as he graduated in 1942. He enlisted, and then when he got back from the war in 1946, the economy was booming. And he felt the obligation to go back and work in the market with his father and his brother. Until like 69, he went back to school, got his master's, and then started teaching at Milwaukee Area Tech. And
oh, wow.
he would teach all the marketing and the management finance classes. But one day a week on Thursday, he had the biggest smile on his face. My mom said he'd be whistling because he got to teach the apprentice meat cutters on Thursday. So,
Oh, okay.
so he has a business, but he also, had that passion for cutting meat.
Yeah.
And
Well, what I'm hearing is that entrepreneurship was running in the family.
very,
So,
very
yeah.
much,
Yeah.
very much. Actually, Dad kept the books for the market
Mhm.
with a degree in finance from Notre Dame. He was the guy. And so my dad always regretted when he got back that he had an offer with a big bank in Racine to be a loan officer,
Mhm.
but he felt that duty and honor to his father to get back into the market. He regretted that,
Mm.
but he told me when I was going to school, "Boy, I really wish you look at banking as a career." And here I am,
And here you
40
are.
years later.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
So I did it.
yeah. How great is that?
Yeah.
So tell us about your family a little bit. I know that you have a wonderful wife
I,
because we speak of her often.
do. Mary Jean is my wife. We've been married as of yesterday, 42 years. So,
Wow.
yeah. So,
See the applause
yeah,
coming from Jermaine.
yeah. She's quite a woman because, of course, she married me with all my flaws and imperfections.
Well,
Uh,
one thing you said about her is that she's a fabulous cook.
oh, she, she was busy yesterday making cupcakes. Today is my granddaughter's birthday. She's 5 years old today,
That's
Penelope.
Penelope?
Yep. And
Okay.
I have a grandson, Max, who's 2.5, and I have two children, obviously. My son, Ben, who's 40. He's an ER doctor in the Madison area. And my daughter, Julie, is 2 years younger than Ben, and she is in Chicago working for Dyson, doing
How
a lot of
nice.
branding and innovation, kind of some really fun stuff.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you've got your son and your daughter, and they're doing big things. I would imagine Ben has his work cut out for him as an ER doctor.
It's a tough job. Healthcare has gone through so much with the pandemic, challenged an awful lot of medical professionals, and I just have the utmost respect for them. And he doesn't talk about his job much, but he's out there saving lives, stabilizing people that come into the ER, and he's seen a lot with his residency in the Chicago area. And, he learned a lot there too, but he loves what he does. He worked for a lot of the local and the regional hospitals
Okay.
within about an hour or so drive. And he really enjoys what he does, but it's difficult. It's hard work.
Oh, I'll bet. So I would like for you to just take a moment and give a special birthday wish to Penelope because hopefully you'll be able to watch this back later with her and let her see you mention her
I
on the video.
I appreciate that. Happy birthday, Sweet Pea. That's what we call her.
That's perfect with
Yeah,
her
she's
name.
no longer an acting 5-year-old. She's an actual 5-year-old now today. So she is joy and
Yeah.
sparkle in my eye, of course.
Oh, of course. And then your grandson is 2 years old.
Max is 2.5. Yep,
Okay.
and they're
Let's
just
say
growing.
hi to Max too while we're
Yeah,
at it.
hello, Max. Hey, buddy, how's it going?
So I'm making a point of all of this, John, because one thing that I have learned in my observation of you, as much as you are a whiz when it comes to money and financials and knowing what to do in terms of CFO functions with the bank, um, I would say your greatest wealth is your family.
Well, thank you.
When
It
I
is.
when I hear you talk about them, that's what comes through.
They are indeed, without your family and the love and support, obviously, I could never have started consulting business, that entrepreneurship that we talked about. So, a special shout out, Mary Jean. I know in particular, she was very supportive, and there's risk when you become an entrepreneur.
I know a thing or two about that.
You walk away from that regular paycheck, and you have to pay for your benefits and everything else. So, it was a journey and one that I never looked back. It's been a wonderful opportunity, provided a lot of really neat advantages, and I get to meet wonderful people like you and Ernie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, John, talk about your career a little bit in terms of how you got started. What type of work were you doing? And walk us through a little bit.
Um, as a CPA, I started in an accounting in a banking environment, and worked as an internal auditor, which was a kind of a neat way to run the bank. Every department, you have to understand the controls and how things operate. And then from there, I went to work up in our corporate group where we had 9 banks at the time, and we had to kind of manage each one of those and help support them. And then for the last year and a half in that company, this was up in Wausau, Wisconsin, I was actually the accounting officer for their lead bank in the Wausau market. From there, I was recruited to go down to the Rockford, Illinois area, work for a bank there that had just merged with another large bank in the city, one that was owned by Warren Buffett, actually. And the company I went to bought the bank for Warren Buffett. And I wondered, now, why did it sell? Warren
Now,
Buffett's a
there's the question.
very smart guy, but I spent almost 20 years. Started there in the accounting, was made the corporate controller, and then at age 32, I was promoted to be the chief financial officer of this super community bank that had grown to about 2 billion in assets. So it was a good sized bank.
So is that what made it a super community
Yep,
bank?
yep. We were growing anything a billion and up really is considered a large community bank. 2 billion company, during the time I was there, grew to 5 billion in assets, which is pretty good size. They were publicly traded and publicly owned, which added a lot of very special, unique responsibilities. I would have to travel to New York, to Wall Street, Boston, Chicago, and it was a pretty heady thing, kind of scary at times, to be very honest.
I'll bet because it sounds like you were pretty young still. You were
Uh,
only in your early 30s.
Very much so. Yeah, I kind of recall going to New York. It was a little intimidating, to
Mhm.
be very honest, but it helped me to, sharpen my skills. And, you grow up pretty quick. It's an unforgiving environment. So
Sure.
I learned a lot and had some wonderful mentors, which is really the key. That people that put their arm around me or took me out to lunch, and they would give me very, very constructive feedback. And part of what I want to do now is to share my experiences and the mentorship I pass that on, as they
Right.
say, pay it forward, so to speak.
Absolutely. And there's nothing like that value of the experience that you can get from talking to someone who's been in your shoes.
Exactly. So after I left that company, after almost 20 years, they were going through a CEO succession. I had been running a large commercial banking group with about 300 people in it, which was really fun. And having been the CFO and being kind of the back room, so to speak, and now going out with our loan officers, talking to customers face to face, is where I really found my passion of what I really enjoyed is meeting people, going to visit their business, talking about their business model and how they operated and kind of their view on running a business. And it was just fascinating. So
Yeah,
I
yeah, that had to be. So because you were, dealing with commercial operations, your customers that you were working with were business owners,
exactly
basically, and you, enjoyed the opportunity to meet them one-on-one and what they do and so forth with their particular operations.
yeah. So the coolest thing in their front office, talk to them, but when they offered to take you back on a tour of their shop, that was really good to see how businesses run, understand a little bit about their banking, their financial needs. Really kind of brought my accounting skills and financing. We both spoke kind of similar language of finance. How do you run a business? Get money cash flow, which is it's the lifeblood of a business. So I could take my accounting background and now on the financing and sales skills came together where people and developed these really wonderful relationships.
And that sounds like going above and beyond, as a banker to go out to the, individual businesses where your customers work and talk to them about their operations and go in the back room and talk with them a little bit more about their accounting functions and so forth. That sounds above and beyond.
To me, it's essential. One of the questions that I would ask people as I go out is, tell me about, what are your biggest headaches, your biggest risks, what keeps you up at night. And when you get inside their mind, the big thing they want to know is, can I borrow money? Do you have the capacity to lend me if I need it? And that's a really important part of banking is when people have a financing need, they need to know that the bank's going to be there to help them out. And that was critical. But to get them to kind of share what was really on their mind and how the bank could help, you can't do that sitting at your desk. That
Okay.
was the big lesson I learned. That going out there, you had a much better appreciation for how you could serve.
Okay, that sounds good, and I appreciate those comments. Looks like it's time that we're going to need to take a break. But when we come back, John, I'm going to ask you to talk about exactly what is a community bank and what would be your definition of that, and explain that to our audience. I'd also like to give the number if anyone has questions, that anything you'd like to call in. The number here is 414 444 5250. 414 444 5250. I've got John Hecht in the studio with me this morning from Artisan Advisors. Look forward to your call. Welcome back to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. And I do have a Mr. John Hecht in the studio with me this morning from Artisan Advisors. And right before the break, John, we were talking about your personal relationships with some of the customers of the banks that you worked with before. And I commented that, wow, that's above and beyond. You go out and you go to their places of business and you get to know them. You get to know a little bit about what they do and about how they do it and what their numbers look like. So it makes perfect sense to me now that I sit here and think that through. Um, I wanted you to talk about community banking. What is a community bank?
It's a great question. Community banks are really are defined by where the decisions are made, where they not only source their deposits, but also how they share that and distribute and lend that back into the community. And generally speaking, a community bank is going to be making local decisions. There is local ownership if it's a stock company, or in the case of like Columbia as a mutual association, the depositors are the owners. It's like a cooperative. So a community bank is one where the ownership, the decisions, and the loans, the money, both sourced from local depositors and invested and reinvested back into the community. So it's a very local type of thing. And community banks are extremely engaged. I say, where there's a strong bank, there's usually a strong community. And there's a very strong symbiotic relationship between the two. You know, when I was running a community bank, um, I would have people tell me, "Oh yeah, well, bank so and so, the national internet bank is going to pay me whatever." And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I don't compete with them. We take our money from local depositors and we make a market and we invest right back in the community." So I don't. Pardon me here. My phone was ringing. It was actually a client.
Oh, they'll see.
But yeah, the community bank will invest right back in the community. And the other distinguishing feature of a community bank is where the employees, the officers, and the directors of the bank are heavily engaged in the community. So they're volunteering, they're supporting local businesses, and they're invested in the community and serving uh, local community and other boards, like a chamber of commerce. They're involved with their local churches, different service clubs. To me, that is the hallmark defining is there's an engagement with that community that is inseparable.
Sure. And it sounds like Columbia Savings and Loan Association is a community bank by each one of those descriptive definition terms that you just listed.
Very much so. It's a wonderful example of what being a true community bank is all about,
Sure.
without a doubt.
And it would seem to me even more important in a community bank to have that type of relationship with customers that you described a little bit earlier.
A community bank, you know, again, another defining thing is when somebody walks through the door, they know who it is. They built a relationship. They call them by it's not just a account number. They say hello, Mister or Miss So and so, and a really good community bank call them by first name if appropriate.
Yeah,
But yeah, those are it's building that relationship locally with people and community banks. Their customers.
right. Well, that's us. That sounds like us. So it looks like we have a caller on hold. Caller, please go ahead. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the studio. Good morning, Attorney Cora.
Thank you.
Yes,
Good
good morning,
morning.
Milwaukee. Tyrone W. Speaker. Good morning, Mr. Rideout. Good morning, Mr. Carson.
Good morning there, sir.
Yes, thank you. Indeed it is. I'm with the guys and with green as the stuff on the trees. So,
Yeah, we were talking about what a beautiful day it is today. I think God did this one just for us.
And,
oh,
yeah,
man, yeah.
and we're inside.
The humidity is down. Good sleeping weather. You don't have to worry about changing your shirt every 5 minutes. So this is good. This is good. Chill the watermelon. It still goes down like the bowl coming out the refrigerator. Watermelon out the bowl. Or off the rind. That's good.
Take it.
Tell Sister I said hi,
I sure will.
yeah. But anyway, a couple questions, to the gentleman. I'm liking what I'm hearing there, but I don't know what you're, not to put you on the spot there, but I guess, it sounds real good what you're doing. Um, but I don't know if big corporations gets it. I mean, with high prices and everything, and supply on demand, with food and all the necessities, personal items, toilet paper, everything. It's supply on demand. So yeah, those type of products, but they need us to keep them going. Big corporations and all the basically, they need the consumer and the money spender, to buy the product. Otherwise, the whole wheel stops. And I don't know if big corporations gets that. I mean, otherwise, some of these prices would come down. And then as a banker, I don't know. That's kind of like two different areas there. But the corporations, and then I'm pretty sure you've heard the term pump and dump from the insurance company. But the bankers, have any of the bankers ever thought about, speaking to the people? Well, maybe it might be better if we do stocks and bonds, from the stocks from the company as opposed to insurance. And maybe 20 years down the road, your stocks will do better for you than insurance has been doing for some people, because some of the policies ain't worth the toilet paper, to be honest with you, man. I think you're better off saying. But anyway, yeah, I'll let you run with it. But yeah, the corporations, and then the kind of BS that the insurance companies have been giving us over the years, taking the money and then it not being worth the policy says what it is, and then the stock, with stock do better for some people 20, 30 years down the road as opposed to insurance. And thank you, Ms. Cora. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank
Did,
you.
did you understand what I was saying, though?
No,
Yeah,
I think that's the
Okay.
question.
All
Yep.
right.
yeah,
There's a couple there. Corporation and then the insurance bank, dilemma as far as which one would be better over time. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. No, I think you make a really good observation that corporations need consumers to purchase their product. The consumer accounts for about 70% of spending in the U.S. economy. So, absolutely, when consumers are dealing with high prices, especially the inflation that we've seen most recently here, the last year or 2 years combined, it puts pressure on the consumer. And corporations have to understand that they have to be really sensitive to that. And as a bank, uh, we see a lot of the impact that causes, on people's finances. And it is a serious issue that people are living paycheck to paycheck, and some are even having to go and borrow against, their retirement plans or others just to put food on the table. And it is a serious issue, that bankers are very sensitive to, and it affects the price of money in the form of interest rates. When inflation is high, interest rates also, by definition, are going to be higher, and that just puts pressure on everybody. So I hear your concern with regard to prices, and banks have to deal with the high prices too. We have to pay the employees, and our cost of operating the bank and the systems increase. And if we're going to keep the banking products affordable to the consumer, we have to be really efficient, productive, as much as possible. Your second question regarding insurance companies and banks are a place where people save. They save money. They either have it in savings accounts or time deposits, and banks have to compete for the consumer's savings products. And in that process, they have to offer a competitive rate of interest because that's how banks finance their ability to make loans. And if they're not doing a good job or paying a fair rate and really providing great service to their customer depositors, that just means they have less money to make loans with to invest back in the community. So it is a very connected thing, and I appreciate the question. I hope that answers your question here. But I would choose banks over insurance companies every day of the week, but I'm biased.
Oh, that's good. That's very good. So, specifically, um, even with community banks too, because community banks are the banks that tend to support local small businesses, right? So the small business is really the part of the community and the part of the economy where people are employed, and so to the extent that the question might have made reference to more like the larger corporate entities, I think we were talking more about the smaller businesses that we seek to serve and support.
Exactly. Great point, Coral. Small businesses are where 75% of the jobs are created in the United States. And to me, a vibrant small business community, local, that serves the people, knows them well, uh, those are the ones that I had the privilege of working with these older entrepreneurs. And, they knew they were competing against large corporations with big budgets, but I think the way that they really thrive is by having a good relationship with their banker so that they can, purchase goods and services that they can then serve their communities with. And the small business to me is so much more responsive to what's going on locally, where the big corporations, without people in those communities necessarily, uh, that's where they can deliver, and having that personal relationship and really meeting the needs of that community so much more effectively. I'm just so passionate when it comes to supporting small business and really making sure that they thrive. Because when they don't thrive, communities suffer. It, it is just an absolute tragedy to see a small business that's not making it. So bankers have a vested interest to make sure that their customers are thriving. And that was something I was running a community bank, a startup bank actually.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about,
Yeah,
John, because you did something that is unusual, right?
scary.
To say the least, scary.
Uh,
Started a bank in Madison.
yeah,
Please tell us about that.
yeah. Thank you. In 2009, I was fortunate enough to be part of a group starting up a bank in the Madison, a community bank. And on the very first day we opened our doors, we didn't have any customers. But we had a vision of serving the community, and we had some capital from our shareholders. And as a result of that, we had to hire a team and provide all the services. And this 2009 was right after the Great Recession, and many banks were hurting. And with our capital, we went out with a very simple message, and it was money to lend. We weren't troubled or burdened by some of the bad loans and other issues. And that message resonated very strongly. And we were able to go in and help businesses that had done what they needed to survive that crisis. And we developed and forged very, very strong, lasting relationships. And I was very happy to say after 6 years, we went from zero customers to over 1,100 households that we were serving, and grew the bank quite nicely. And we did it because we said it was our relationship, quality of our relationships that we would build, that we would get referrals from people that we were serving well. And that was the message on day one. It was my message to everybody. And I was fortunate to really be able to recruit wonderful, wonderful bankers who had that heart of serving the community. That was the number one thing that I was recruiting for when we were building our team. And
Right.
banking is a relationship, it's a people business. Big corporations sometimes forget that. It's those that loyalty and that trust. People give you their money, they expect it back with a return.
Oh yeah, for
And,
sure.
and when they come to you looking for a loan, um, we wanted to make sure that we were very responsive. But we also wanted to make sure that when we made loans, that we were doing it very responsibly and prudently. And during the 6 years, our bank was named one of the safest banks in the United States, but we were also named as one of the top 100 small business lenders in the United States. We're very proud of what we had accomplished during that period.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
I like the fact that you even took that on considering the climate at the time. A lot of people might have looked at it and said, well, banks are struggling right now. The last thing I would like to do is to start a bank. But instead, you looked at it and said, this is an opportunity because we won't be encumbered by some of the issues that the banks that were already there were having. You could start with a fresh slate and say, okay, we're fortunate. We got some capital, so we can make some loans.
Yep,
We can help people. We can make some things happen.
exactly. Um, I remember the local paper in Madison called for an interview, and I told them, I said, "This is a great time to start a bank." And people thought I was absolutely crazy, but at the time, we had money to lend. We had no problem loans. I was able to recruit some wonderful people that worked for other banks that were struggling, and they were concerned, anxious about, is my bank going to survive? We also, if you'll recall, a lot of values for housing and other things had dropped. So we were lending against more conservative values, if you will, or lowered values that weren't inflated with some of that height speculation. And then when we were looking at our systems, our computer systems, we were able to acquire the latest technology because actually we were the last bank to start up in the state of Wisconsin.
Mhm.
This is a very was a good time overall to be able to get into the business, among other things. And again, started with the people who had the capital, and the timing was just beautiful. And people read that article, and after they read it, they go, "Yeah, that makes sense."
Yeah,
But it was not intuitive.
sure.
And, we're fortunate again, after 6 years, we started with 10 million capital,
Okay.
and when we sold the bank, we were about 130 million in assets in 6 years,
Wow.
which is really tremendous growth. But it was really those relationships, those 1,100 households that kept telling people, "Hey, come on, bank, let's go bank there." And
Right.
it was a joy. And unfortunately, our shareholder was going through other challenges in their healthcare business and decided a sale was in their best interest. So, but for 6 years, 6 glorious years, we had a lot of fun, really helping people finance their dreams.
Yeah, you're smiling. You got a little twinkle in your eye when you're talking about it. So that had to be a good thing.
It is when people tell you you've made their retirement, you've just helped them through some really difficult times. That we had the faith because we listened, we made sure that we're helping them do the right thing. Um, See them come and tell you that thank you for securing my retirement. Things were bleak, and then totally turned around because we were willing to take a risk, a good but a risk nonetheless. Multiple people say that to us. We heard this. That just warmed our hearts because we knew that's what community bankers really were all about.
Oh, absolutely. It's that feeling. I think when we were talking with a loan officer a couple of weeks ago, and she very passionately said the best feeling was at when the loan was closing, and how the people who maybe thought they couldn't get to that point, or that they might not be approved, or how are they going to work this out? How are they going to handle it? And sometimes I think she mentioned to actually get people that their mortgage was less than the rent that they had been paying, so they actually had more money to take care of their families with. But just at that moment at the closing, with the gratitude, that was why she does the work that she does. I'm hearing the same thing from you.
It's the same. You know, you don't always get hugged. When you get hugged, you did the right thing.
Right, right. So, John, in the time that we have left, because it goes so fast, will you tell us a little bit about Artisan Advisors and what that company is and what you do?
Sure. Artisan Advisors is a group of consultants that have worked in the banking industry, many of us 25, 30, or longer years, and they've all been in executive level positions within a bank, whether it's, in my case, I've been a CEO of the bank president, I've been a chief financial officer, lending officer, compliance, risk, operations. We have a group, there's about 15 of us today that have kind of aligned ourselves together, you know, in the ability to serve community banks that are trying to compete with these larger money center, large regional banks. And with our experience that we can bring to the table, you know, I may have skills in some area, some of my colleagues and others. Between the group, we can really help banks that are dealing with either regulatory issues or profitability or figuring out operational issues, reducing their costs so that they can then again go back to their customers and provide better service, and at the end of the day, continue to operate and serve their communities wherever they may be. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the mission with Artisan.
How
We
did Artisan get started? I didn't mean to cut in,
Yeah,
because I know when I initially met you several months ago, I was just under the impression that it was you and maybe one other gentleman, but it's much larger than that.
it
And
is.
then we also had one of your colleagues doing some work with us too for a little while.
Yeah, to hear the two founders, Jim Adkins and Jeff Voss, they're the managing members here of the group. They called themselves reluctant consultants, but they,
I had the reluctant leader, reluctant president of the bank on a
yeah,
couple of weeks ago, and now we got reluctant consultants.
yeah, Jim and Jeff got involved.
I'm a reluctant attorney. How's that?
We're all reluctant at sometimes, but sometimes life throws us a curveball or an opportunity. And for those two gentlemen, after the Great Recession, many banks, they were in the Illinois market at the time that were struggling, and many of them failed, and so they would be brought in to help. And eventually they just realized they're like, hey, there's plenty of opportunity here, and our skill sets are such that we can really support banks and kind of get them back on their feet, help them in a time of crisis. And so that's how the firm was born here, so to speak. And in the last, I've been with them now about 4 years.
Okay.
And prior to that, I was on my own for about 4 years. But what was happening is I'd get calls from clients, and I was trying to figure out how to clone myself because I had 3 and 4 clients at a time, and to be honest, it was just too much. And so I had been referred to them by some very trusted friends of mine, and I learned that they were really people of faith too, which was important to me because when I work with somebody, I know that they have spiritual dimension and really make sure that I can trust them. I know they're good people, their morals, their ethics, and business practices. And boy, it's just that we met for the first time and sharing our life experiences and our faith. And they just, it was like we had known each other all our lives. And
Mm,
I just said, I want to work with you guys. Let's figure this out.
right.
And I have been nothing but extremely pleased with the relationship. They are men of their word. We pray together. We talk about things. We get together with me over the phone because one of them has moved to Tennessee, the other one's in the Illinois market. I'm up in the Wisconsin area, but it's just nice to know you can something have back and
Right.
that you can trust them.
Right.
That,
Right.
that to me, when you're in partnership or with a group people, you need to know who you're with.
Oh, for
Uh,
sure. I see you over there agreeing, Jermaine. Looks like you want to say something.
Yeah, see, I was sitting over here working, but I was paying attention to something that you said, and I knew it was something about you when you said that when we first opened up, we had no customers, but we had a vision, and that stuck with me, and that's what really like brought me in because now that you're talking about your faith, it all ties in, like it makes sense because even though when you open up, there was no customers at all, but you still believed because you had a vision. That stuck with me. So, yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate you.
yeah,
Yeah. Thanks, Jermaine.
It's I can remember one day that really stuck out. We were in the application mode for FDIC insurance. That's important. You're gonna start a bank, you better have FDIC insurance,
Yeah.
which Columbia does, obviously. And if you get a banking charter, you have to have FDIC insurance. And we had the charter, but the FDIC certificate of deposit insurance, you know, this is the week of September 8th. This was like things were really looking ugly. This was 2008 on September 11th. I'll never forget that day because it was like the financial world was falling apart. And here I am. I just invested time and energy, to start up a bank. And I was like, oh man, this financial markets are going crazy. And I felt like we were on the edge of the cliff. And it was like, I was just prayerful and I'm like, wow, what's going to happen here? And I remember going back to the fax machine and I saw a little light on and I pulled the little sheet from the fax machine. It was the FDIC certificate of insurance approval. And I just closed my eyes and I said, there is a God. Thank you. Because I knew it was real and that God was looking out after us at that time. And that to me was so powerful that having the vision to know that God has got your back.
I call that confirmation.
Yeah, yeah, and so it was a true blessing. He has been very good to myself, my family, and it's just something that um, you know we just appreciated so much, knowing that you know God was looking out for us and for our customers.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. It looks like it's time for us to take a break. We will be right back with more Money Talks with Attorney Coral and our special guest, Mr. John Hecht.
With good credit, you may pay a lower interest rate and charges for a loan, perhaps a car loan. With good credit, you may pay a lower cost for auto insurance. With good credit, you may pay a lower interest rate on a credit card balance. With good credit, it means you could save large amounts on interest costs. Take steps today to increase your credit score.
Hi, this is Spencer Coggs, and I want to tell you about my friend Senator Dora Drake. Senator Dora Drake is working to ensure that there are real consequences for reckless driving, not just a slap on the wrist. Senator Dora Drake expanded victim protective services to help those impacted by crime. And Senator Dora Drake will strengthen gun background checks and red flag laws to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. Join me in supporting your Senator Dora Drake in the Democratic primary August 13th. Paid for by Friends of Dora Drake.
It's time for the grooviest event of the summer at the Wisconsin State Fair. You'll be feeling good at the Wisconsin State Fair, presented by U.S. Cellular, August 1st through the 11th.
Yeah, I'm feeling good.
Wake up and roll over early at 6 a.m. every second Sunday morning on the M. That's WNOW TV for the Mary H. Bryant's Milwaukee Friday or Saturday Night Blues. Showcasing local and national blues and jazz artists, it's a blues lover's treat. You'll find yourself locked into every note of every song with unwavering loyalty. This Sunday morning at 6 a.m. on the M. That's WMLW TV, racing join the jazzy and bluesy crowd of Mary H. Bryant TV. Phone 414-463-6977 to find out more. 414-463-6977 for the Mary H. Bryant's Milwaukee Friday or Saturday Night Blues.
WNOV 860 and W293CX 106.5 Milwaukee.
Okay, welcome back to Money Talks with Attorney Coral. I have Mr. John Hecht in the studio with me this morning, and we were talking a little bit about the company that he works with, Artisan Advisors, and boy, that sounds like a good team of people that you have there.
We have a wonderful team, and I reach out to them whenever I have questions, need specific expertise, or want to validate something. It's just nice to have somebody I can talk to as well.
Sure. And it's good that Ernie and I have someone like you that we can talk to, that we can call on for support when we do that with Columbia. That is basically how we met, because of the work you do with Artisan, and that when we need you and we call upon you, you're able to help us help Columbia.
Yeah, and I appreciated the opportunity to serve. I do a lot of work with financial modeling and so forth. Banks have to have capital to support their business, and one of the things that I do is help them build plans to make sure that they can meet the needs of what the banks and the regulators are going to require. And I've had a lot of practice doing that over the years, and just making sure that the bank is operating in such a way and has a plan, vision to move forward, and how to operationalize that. From my experience both running a startup and part of a larger organization, there are some basic things that banks have to do and do well. And that's part of what I can bring to the table are ideas, share that, and strategies that really help the bank to make sure that they can meet the needs of the community and continue to operate safe and soundly, that's what the banking regulators expect us to do.
Absolutely. And so you mentioned earlier on in our talk here how important it was for you when you were relatively new in banking to have mentors that you could learn from. So I personally want to thank you for doing that in the circumstances as well.
Well, thank you. Again, like I said, it's great to share things. I've enjoyed working with you and your role with the bank as the general counsel. And uh, banks need good counsel, whether it's legal or financial,
Right.
operational. So I think it's a good match. Obviously, to have that for any institution.
Yeah, and John knew when I was having a little bit of a rough day the other day. He knew just what to do. He went a few blocks down to Jake's and bought me a nice big juicy corned beef sandwich.
They
Sometimes that just solves whatever.
one of the best delis I've ever been to. I've never had a pastrami that good. So thank you, Jake. I hope you're listening.
So again, I would just like to, before we close out today, again, just to acknowledge the ladies and gentlemen who are at the bank right now working very hard and holding everything down. Douglas Clark, Eugene Woods, Olivia Clark, and our brand new team, Yumika Miller, Kayla Buford, and next week we will be welcoming Danielle Freeman, who will join the team next week. So, Kayla, I would like to say a special happy birthday to you today, celebrating her very first birthday with Columbia Savings and Loan Association. I brought Kayla a little cupcake today. I didn't know she liked cupcakes, but a cupcake and a candle. So we had that waiting for her when she came in this morning. So happy birthday, Kayla.
Happy birthday, Kayla.
And thank you to the team for all of your hard work. We really, really do appreciate you. So that's it. Money Talks with Attorney Coral. Looking forward to being here next week where I will return with Dr. Lacey Robbins of the Ventures, and looking forward to receiving her. So thank you so much and have a good week.